Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bajalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business. And today we bring you another incredible guest, another successful entrepreneur that's going to share his story, his journey, and help you learn more about how you can grow and scale your business. His name is Emeric Arnold, and Emeric is a co-founder and CEO of Agorapulse. He grew his company to 20 million in revenue without external funding and positioned it as a leading social media management platform trusted by top brands worldwide. So you have to stay on to the episode to learn how you can grow your business as well without external funding and definitely learn about using social media in the right way. So, Emeric, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, you're welcome, Nevina. Thank you for having me.
So I am very excited to hear your story. I would like to hear a little bit maybe about the beginnings as entrepreneur. How did you started? Were you always an entrepreneurship spirit or you work for corporations? How did you make the jump to start your first company?
Yeah, so in order to give you a meaningful story, I have to go back a very long time ago. When I was 8 years old, my parents took me to a guy who looks into your eye and look into your iris and tells things about you based on what he or she sees in the iris. That's called an iridologist. I'm pretty sure most of the listeners have never heard about that. So I was eight. Eight is a very young age for a young boy. And he looked into my eye and he said, "This young boy will never be able to work for a boss." That was eight. So, and I don't think I remember that clearly when I grew up, but kept studying in, middle school, high school in France. And um, when I got towards the end of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I went to see a psychologist that helps you decide, like define what you should be doing. I had no clue, like zero clue. And she did me in. She run made me run a lot of tests, and apparently I was smarter than average. And said, "Oh, you're very smart. You should do this study and that study." I said, "Oh, that sounds really good. I have no idea what this is, but how do you get there?" And she said, "You can either go to university or you can go to prep class, which is, high intensity work, and it's very hard to get to the best business schools and the best engineering schools or the best political studies school." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go to both." Like, so I went to university. I decided to go for law because it was either history or law, and I said if I fail, I there's no way I'm becoming a history teacher, so it's not gonna work. So lawyer, it's okay. My granddad was a lawyer, so I said, "Hey, why not?" And I went to the prep class thing. And during the whole summer, I thought about what should I do. And then I chose the lazy way because I said, okay, prep class, it's going to be too hard, too much work. I'm going to die. So I took the university. That's how I ended up studying law. And it worked out well for me. And I ended up being a lawyer. I graduated very quickly after 5 years. Well, quickly. Well, it went well for me. I was made for this. So I passed the bars. I became um, a lawyer in France. I went to work in the US for several years. So I was a lawyer in the beginning. What I liked about being a lawyer, back to what the guy told me when I was eight, is that in France, at least, you're an independent contractor. You're not a salaried employee. So you can have your own clients and you can have your own business and you can build your own stuff. And I did that. I did visa for people French people who wanted to go and invest in the US and build a business in the US. A lot of bakeries and restaurants, like very small businesses. And that was giving me side revenue that I was saving. Those saving helped me start my own company when I started that. So it was part of the story. And so I've not always been an entrepreneur, like you asked. I started my career without having a clue and any idea what I wanted to do and what I would be doing. And I ended up being a lawyer for 5 years, and then I transitioned to starting the business. And that was in 2000 with my co-founder Ben. And then 25 years later, here I am. So like in the meantime, a lot of struggle. The first 10 years, very tough. No success, like really no money, no success, failing after failing, pivoting. We pivoted 3 times. Every pivot was a little bit better than the previous one, but not really great. And it's only in 2011, at the end of 2011, early 2012, that we launched Agorapulse, that we had some level of traction. I say some level of traction because it was not amazing, but it was much better than what we had before with the previous product. And I I made a promise to myself in early 2012 when we started Agorapulse, and I told my co-founder, we are paying ourselves minimum wage after 10 years at this. It's horrendous. It's too hard. We need to make this Agorapulse thing work, and in order to decide if it works, we have to set a goal and a timeline. So I said the goal is 1,000 customers paying an average of 49 a month, and the timeline is 1 year. So in 1 year, we should have 1,000 customers paying 49 a month. Just to set this into context, Agorapulse was selling contests and promotions on Facebook at 49 that you can build yourself, self-serve at 49 a month. Those very same contest promotion, photo contest, sweepstakes, like all the apps that we were providing for 49 a month on average, we used to sell them 10,000 a piece a year before. So I thought, okay, these are the things we used to sell for 10K, 8K a piece. We're not going to sell them for 49. So it has to have success. And if we don't have tremendous success within 1 year, which for me meant 1,000 customer at 49 a month, then it's probably that we made another mistake in deciding what to build. And
Yeah,
it took
exactly.
3 years to get to 49,000 a month. So it didn't take 1 year, it took 3 years. But what made me stick to it and stay committed to building this was that I attended a conference in Boston called Business of Software, and a person named Gail Goodman, who is the founder of Constant Contact. Constant Contact was one of the main competitors of MailChimp in the early days of email marketing. And she gave a speech about how difficult her journey has been building Constant Contact, which eventually was a very, very successful company. She sold it for $1.3 billion. But it was a very, very tough journey for her. And she told that story, and she said that one of the hardest thing to do is decide when to stop and when to keep going. And the what she gave as a sign that you need to stop or you need to keep going is, are you going up and to the right? Are you making progress? Are you every month, every week going a little bit up and to the right? Like it's going better. It's making progress. It's making a little bit more money. It's making getting more customers and so on and so forth. Basically, she said, if you're flat for like 3 months in a row, ask yourself the hard questions. If and even more if you're flat for 5, 6, 8 months. I've been flat for 10 years, so it resonated quite a bit. Not flat, but almost flat. And when I looked at the result of the MRR, the monthly recurring revenue of Agorapulse, it was making progress. 4%, 5%, 6%, 1%, whatever that was. Every month was going up and to the right. And I thought, okay, well, if it's going up and to the right, that means something's going well, something's working, so you need to keep pushing. And that was the advice that I took from her, and that made me go during all these hard years, because those early years of Agora Pulse were hard because not we were not profitable. So
Yeah.
basically, what we did, my co-founder and I, we didn't pay ourselves to pay for the rest. So you know, if as founders you're not paying yourself, yeah, your company is not sane, and it's not okay. Your company should be profitable while you pay yourself. We couldn't pay ourselves, so that was the price to
Exactly,
pay in the
exactly.
early days. Yeah. So
Thank
that's
you
the
for
long
sharing
story.
this story. Yeah, because I love it. I mean, there are two parts of it that I really love. First one was that, you had a successful career as a lawyer, and for many people it's incredible. They're lawyers and maybe successful and making money, and you go on and you're like doing entrepreneurship for 10 years and struggling. Maybe
Mm.
starting from your own family would be like, Emeric, are you insane? Or
Yeah.
friends, but I really admire that, and because you follow probably something that you considered it's helping you grow and develop. And second, I love that you shared the actual struggle and how you listen to the conference, right? Someone who sold their business for billions, that they also struggle for a long time. Because
Mm.
sometimes we just see people's success and we don't realize they actually been on the journey for a long time. We think, oh, 1 year passed, 3 years passed, I haven't built this, into $1 million business, and we think we're doing it slow, which is actually not necessarily the case, right? So I love that. So can you tell the listeners what you guys do at Agorapulse and maybe tell us how did you pivoted in those years? Like where did you start it? Where did idea came from in the first place for you to leave your, law practice and just start your own business?
Yeah. But first of all, the what we started in 2000 when I left law and stopped being a lawyer was was already SaaS, software as a service, and it was already based on the idea of community building, and the term social media was not coined back then. It was called communities, not social media. It became social media in 2005, 6, when Facebook became a thing. Before that, nobody called that social media. What we did in 2000 was basically a technology where you could build your own community space for anything you want, really, like a family, a group of friends, a nonprofit, alumni, a university alumni, all those kind of things. So that's what didn't work. Like we tried to do Facebook 4 years before Facebook in the wrong country. So like it was the wrong language, the wrong country, the wrong everything. So we completely screwed up the timing thing, which I learned later is the most important thing in business. Timing is so important. Um, and We pivoted that to a white label technology that we sold to brands so they could build their own communities. We had a little bit of success with that, but still really, really tough. We pivoted that to building Facebook apps like bespoke, like an agency. That's what we did in 2008, 2009. And we didn't like the agency business. We thought this was very hard and there was very little profit and it was a lot of work and customers were a pain mostly. So we really didn't like it. Oh, I don't like this. There's too much pink. There's too much green. There's too much blue. Like it's always everybody has an opinion on the design and how things are built and websites and things. So and that's what we were doing. So I didn't like that. And when we saw a company in the US doing that, in a self-service, in a SaaS way, and my co-founder and I we looked at that and said, that's what we need to do. We want to do that. So we took all these apps that we had built for customers as an agency, and we industrialized them within an app where you could use them yourself for, again, $29 a month or $49 a month or 99, depending on the size, number of players you wanted to have, subscriptions and so on and so forth. And that's how Agorapulse got born. It was born out of a hatred for the service business, the agency business. We wanted a product business, not a service business. And out of we know how to do that, those Facebook contest promotion sweepstakes and so on and so forth. But it's too expensive and it's becoming more and more competitive. And we want to build a product. So if we productize them, then it's going to be easier for us. So that's how we move from affinities, that was the early business we started in 2000, build your own community, to building apps on Facebook. We basically build the app on Facebook because as we were trying to sell a community software, everybody in the market in 2008, 2009 was telling us, why would I build my own community? There's Facebook out there. Everybody's on Facebook. So why would I build my own thing? So we basically had to go, okay, we have to go do things on Facebook because that's what everybody wants. So basically listening to what the market wants and tells you like, we don't want this, we want that. Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah,
Was
exactly.
the way we moved from one thing to another in the early days. And going from the agency to the product was listening to our wishes. Like we don't want to be a service business, we want to be a product business. So once we found a way to do that, that's what we did. And then we launched this version one of Agorapulse that was all contest promotion, sweepstakes, photo contest and all that kind of stuff. And we realized that the churn was tremendously high. It was 20% net churn per month, which is crazy if you ask people who know a little bit about SaaS and subscription revenue models. So we quickly realized that this business is not going to go anywhere. It's going to stall very quickly. It has a glass ceiling on its head that's very, very low. So we thought about, okay, who is buying us? And community managers were the people buying those kind of services into 2011, 2012. And I said, okay, what are these guys doing day in and day out that they need software for? And it was the early days of social media management. And in these early days, there were two companies that were starting to be known. That was Buffer for publishing and Hootsuite for Twitter mostly at the time, but they had a little bit of a feed like system. So like it was very nascent and very early, but we saw those two things. And community managers at the time were all speaking about, oh, I can use Hootsuite, I can use Buffer. And we thought, okay, well, those tools, they're using them every day because they help them post content, reply to content, measure their things and so on and so forth. So we thought, okay, that's what we need to do because our contests and promotions, they're only being used once a year, twice a year. So it's not a constant, it's not a constant need. It's a punctual need. And that's not a good business model. We need something that people are using daily. So basically, one piece of advice when you build a solution for B2B, you need to think about who in the company is going to use that and think about, is this going to be their daily tool that they can't live without? And if you do that, then at least you're much better off than if you build something that they're going to use from time to time, basically. So, like
Yeah, I
you're
love
going to
that.
build an accounting software for the accountant. You're going to build a financial planning software for the CFO. You're going to build a CRM for the sales team, whatever. Like there are many reasons why specific jobs within the business are going to buy specific tools to make their life easier or to make their life possible. And that's how we pivoted to from contests and promotions to social media. As we had not raised any funds, it took a long time. So it took 3 years to get to a point where our software was decent to be called a social media management software. So it's basically it started early 2015, and at the end of 2015 we broke even. So we reached 100,000 euros of monthly revenue, which was what we spent every month. So we were like flat in terms of profit, which was very satisfying. So that's the journey of pivoting from one thing to the
Yeah.
next. So back to your question. I didn't start any of that with a grand vision. Well, we started affinities with grand vision and it failed
Mm.
miserably. So the
Okay.
second project, there was no grand vision. It was okay, what does the market want and what does work? Like the market want this, okay, let's build this. Oh, this doesn't work because it's a very bad business model. What would have a better business model for this very market we're already serving? And that's how we kept thinking and iterating into what would work and what would they need to get piece by piece into something that was meaningful for them and for us.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm enjoying so much hearing your journey, and we are learning so much. Very specific advice as well that you gave for the listeners to think actually who will be the one buying from you and how often do they need it. If you can find a solution for some daily need, you are much better off than something like you said people need and using 2 times per year and so on.
Mm.
And I want to ask you now that you started growing to get to those goal 1,000 customers, what are some things you did because you didn't get um, capital, right? You're saying you grow your business now without a capital. What
Mm.
are some things you guys did to get sales, to get in? Did you paid ads? Did you advertise? Like, what are some tools you did to start getting people in to buy your product? What kind of customer service you developed to follow up with your existing customers? What's something that helped you really boost, get to that goal? And then, of course, we're going to talk about multiplying that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, as a caveat, you need to keep in mind that what we did to grow from 0 to 1 million was 2012, 13, 14, 15. What you would have to do today would be completely different because the world 15 years ago, 13 years ago was completely different than what the world is today. Like entirely different. For example, building a software back then was really hard and took a lot of people and a lot of human power. Today it does not. Today, you can basically build a great piece of software using Replit or Lovable. I did it myself. It's doable. It's not the best, it's not amazing, but it's doable, and you can prove your concept. You can do an MVP, and you can have people use something without a developer, basically, which was impossible early on. So early on, basically, what I needed was a technical co-founder because I didn't know how to build a software. So I needed a co-founder who can build a software. Otherwise, you would have to raise money to buy one, to pay one. Like so, the in the early days, and I think the role is still valid today, except you don't need a technical co-founder. You will need one at some point if you get some success with your MVP, but to prove MVP, you don't need one. what I would say is that having a very, very complementary co-founder is absolutely necessary to not have to raise money because you can't build a company by yourself. It's impossible. It's too much work. It's too hard. So having at least one great co-founder who's very complementary to you is super, super important. Maybe two. So maybe two of you or three of you, basically. Uh, I'd argue that at four it starts to be too many, in my opinion. I don't want to say people who have three co-founders are in a bad spot. Maybe they are amazing three co-founders, but my experience when I've seen companies with four co-founders, there was always at least one who was not really necessary. And then you end up giving a lot of equity to someone you end up feeling very bad about because you give them stock in the company and then they're not participating into the growth and they're not really helping. And everybody is angry about that and feeling bad. And it creates a horrible atmosphere within the company. By the way, you need to keep one number in mind. 65% of companies die because of founders fighting each other. 65%. So the majority of companies die because co-founders cannot get along with each other.
That is
So
insane number.
yeah, it's insane, but it's that's because we're human beings and human beings
Exactly.
fight. I mean, look at us, like look at Ukraine, look at everything in the world. Human beings
Yes,
fight. That's what we do.
yes.
It's very unfortunate, but it's a thing. And we
And
usually
our ego
fight
as
because we don't
well,
talk.
and ego
Yeah,
perceiving how much work we're putting in, our
yeah,
opinions as well, how the company should grow, what should we do. So I
yeah.
believe it, yeah.
So be very well aware of that. Don't ignore this. This is a reality of human connections and human communication and human doing business with each other. And what I usually advise people to do, which very few people do, but it's so it would be so game changing if every founder would do that, is that in the early days of a business, write down on a piece of paper, each of you, each of the co-founders, write down on a piece of paper, what do you expect the other person to bring to the venture? To bring what value do you expect them to bring into the business? And every quarter or so, um, if when you do your QBRs, when you do quarterly business reviews, or at least every year, at least once a year, at the very, very, very freaking least, go back to what you wrote and say, are we still aligned? Are we still in a place where you bring to this business and to this venture what I expect you to bring and what you agreed on, by the way, yeah, everybody has to agree on what the other person wants them to bring to the adventure, because otherwise I can ask you to bring money and people and fame, and then you don't. And then, of course, you don't because it's impossible. I expected too much. And every at least year, but ideally quarter, go back through that and say, are we still aligned? And when you do that, you avoid the conflict, you avoid the anger, you avoid the pain, and that's really game changing in terms of ensuring that your business is not going to be part of the 65% that dies, not because they lack capital, not because they lack product market fit, but because they lack founders alignment. So I think that's
Yeah.
if I were to go back of what was valid back then and what is still valid today, this is number one. And
I
I'd say
love that
number two,
advice.
yeah, number two, solve something worth solving. I mean, it's so basic, but so many people start with an idea of what they want to solve, and it's not worth solving. And it's so many times it's like, yeah, who cares, you know? But for some reason, they care very much. And usually that's because they don't know the market, they don't understand their
Yeah,
ideal customer, they've not talked to enough of them, and they fool themselves with a story that they have this great idea where they want you to sign an NDA, and it's so secret that, well, actually 10 people have the same idea at the very same time, but they don't realize that.
yeah,
And I think that being very public about your ID, sharing it with as many people as possible, getting as much feedback as you can, as early as you can, is so much better than working 6 months in a tunnel and then releasing something that nobody cares about. So
yeah.
those are the two main things. And the third thing I would say is that in 2012, attention was hard to get for a new business, for a new product. It
Uh,
was hard to get, but it was doable. So I basically on my own, I got enough attention to bring the business from 0 to 1 million on my own with no help, like just was just me doing content, written content, blog post content, SEO, and influencer PR, I would call it this way. And doing that in 2026 is not going to be possible. It's this is gone. This time is gone. So you can't do that. And getting attention in 2026 is freaking harder than it was in 2012. Like for sure, it's much, much, much harder. So I'd say that when you think about your business idea, think, of course, think about the product, the pain you're solving, the solution you want to bring. Do what I said earlier. Go talk to the market, talk to the ideal customer, get feedback. Like understand, are you really doing something worth solving for? And do that, but also think about the go-to-market. Like as hard as you think about the product and the pain and the solution, think about how you're going to go to market. How are you going to
Yeah.
make this known? How are you going to get attention? Because it is so hard to get attention now. And it's not impossible, but there's so much more noise that you got to be more creative than doing
Yeah.
blog posts and SEO like I did in 2012.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Emeric. And as we are wrapping the episode soon, I would love to ask you maybe one final advice, something you consider it's very important for entrepreneurs, people building a business, or a mistake you did and you wish you knew about, and something that can help also a lot of startups now.
Yeah, well, like the one thing I'm most passionate about is for especially for founders and CEOs is to create clarity about who you need and setting expectations for what you want them to do for the company. The example I gave you about doing this exercise with your co-founders, you should do that with all of your employees. And CEOs and founders don't do that. They hire people based on gut feelings, especially in the early days. In the early days, it's the worst. They hire people based on gut feelings. They don't set expectations. Then they get angry when the results are not there. Then the employees are like, I don't know. I thought I was doing what you expected, but they never shared what they expected. Well, I hired you to do marketing and marketing's not working. Well, what does marketing is? What does working means? You know, all these things. So I came up to build a system where I define for each of my employees and team members what success looks like in their jobs, and I that's a document I write down, and or every manager has to write down for their direct report. And I think ask yourself the question of what do I need that person to achieve, and writing this down and sharing it with the person and say, that's what I expect you to achieve. Do you agree with that? Are you okay with that? Are you comfortable with those achievements? And having that conversation with them so you set the stage for a sane adult and working relationship where they know what you expect, they know what's expected from the job, and then you talk about it on a regular basis. At least, I like to talk about performance every week with my direct reports, but at least you talk about it regularly and you go back to these documents and you say, are we good here? Are we not good here? And you don't let time go by and say everybody forgets about why they came here in the first place.
Yeah.
And so that's my big high level advice on make sure there's clarity about the expectation for everyone. And at the end of the day, when you have to have those hard conversations that you usually have to have from time to time with people who work for you, you do them based on a basis that they agreed on and that everybody was clear about.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure listeners as well enjoyed a lot, Emeric. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Perfect. And thank you everyone for listening. Remember to give us some likes, comments. What would you like to hear? Which topics you want us to discuss? And share this with at least one more entrepreneur that's going to benefit from this episode. Make sure to connect with Emeric. It's incredible advice he gave here today. A lot of valuable information. So use it in your business and when building yours as well. Thank you for being here. I see you in the next episode.